Ladies and gentlemen, we interrupt your regularly scheduled mayhem to bring you this.
With the excess of Batman projects, you can count on an influx of Jokers. And while there have been some beyond impressive iterations of the Rogue over the years, not every Joker can be Mark Hamill, nor have they been. And that's why today, I'm going to be talking about the worst animated Joker, an honor that goes to Young Justice, who managed to achieve this feat and bring Batman fans the most worthless adaptation of the antagonist ever put to screen. The characters really only appeared twice in that series, and yet that is still too many times. This big bad was bad in a big way. There's just nothing positive about this one whatsoever. From design to depiction, it's just all so unsatisfying. Which is somewhat surprising, as Young Justice usually did a good job at converting comic book characters into cartoons. But this iteration was pretty poor. Nothing about it worked, and that's not even an exaggeration. This Joker was cringeworthy in every way, shape, and form. Hard on the eyes and hard on the ears alike. Sure, the character carried the same slender frame and wardrobe the frail lunatic Fringe from the comics did, but it just didn't look all that great on this clown. Sort of felt like baby's first Joker. The look is just so boring and basic. This didn't look like the clown Prince of Crime. This looked like a pale, out-of-touch, colorblind businessman who's decked out with sideburns that would make the Beatles blush, and canine fangs. There's just nothing unique about this take, which is probably why his appearance was changed in between appearances, with his short second tenure on the show occurring 8 years later. This time he was given longer hair, shorter sideburns, and a more detailed and expressive face. This Joker design was leagues above his previous one, though that's still an incredibly low bar to set. The update is by far better, but neither are exactly ideal. Trust me, those fingerless gloves aren't doing anybody any favors. And while the debut design was changed, what wasn't was the performance, which to me was a much bigger problem, but we'll get to that. This Joker was always made to look goofy, in both appearance and characterization, and I'm not sure if that was their initial intent either. I don't know if they were going for unhinged, unpredictable psychopath and fell short, or they went for a goofy punchline that landed. But either way, it didn't feel like a great use of such an important character of the Batman mythos. While he still had the character's trademark sense of humor, his jokes landed about as often as his punches did. That is to say that they didn't. Again, I don't know if this is a failure or a function of the character, but either way, it's just overall unfortunate. Because the Joker feels less criminal mastermind and more silly, whiny little brat. Even less flattering was the accompanying voice.
Little Miss Poison Ivy spilled the beans! Or whatever grows on grapevines. I'm not a horticulturist, you know.
How you simultaneously juggle multiple scenarios.
I've had practice juggling my multiple personalities. Always wanted to carve this bird.
I mean, Riddler knew? Riddler?
Brent Spiner is a talented actor with plenty of star power, pun intended. But he just never really clicked with this character, especially not in this particular series. His act always felt a little bit too much like an act. It was very over the top and theatrical in nature. Spiner was in the studio chewing so much scenery that he was probably picking animated batarangs out of his teeth for days to come, rolling his R's while he's speaking in Shakespearean sonnets. In my opinion, this was far too hammy and over the top for Young Justice. However, I think Brent would be right at home if he was instead attached to a Brave and a Bold type project or those old Scooby-Doo team-ups. If we're judging this Joker by those standards, then I would say it holds up. I still don't think it would be anybody's favorite version of the villain, but it would at least feel like a valid version of the villain. It's not my Joker, but it is a Joker. On this show, however, it feels incredibly off-putting and out of place. As if the Joker from the Silver Age was somehow transported into the modern era. This character just felt grossly misplaced, and Brent Spiner felt mostly miscast. He constantly clashes with the show tonally, and it feels like the narrative grinds to a halt whenever he's included in a story. Even the character's characterization feels much more akin to the old school Joker. as he's pretty much a goofy, ineffective loon who more often than not is the butt of the joke. Now, if all of that wasn't bad enough, which I think that it is, what makes matters even worse is when you remember all this Joker is supposed to be responsible for in this series. True, he only makes 2 major speaking appearances, but a lot of Young Justice's story is subtly told in the background with the passing of time. Time jumps are all too common in this series. More often than not, the show skips some of the most important moments in DC continuity. So this Joker, despite coming off as a cameo, is still responsible for a lot of crime and chaos. When you're taking this much sillier and, for lack of a better word, stupid iteration of this character into account, it's near impossible to think of this character doing all that he was responsible for. It's hard to imagine this Joker beating and brutalizing Jason Todd. Yet it's implied that that's its canon. All these impactful moments with that implied past doesn't hold the same narrative weight when it's this bozo orchestrating the anarchy. When the show silently references these events, it couldn't feel any more off. This would be like trying to imagine Cesar Romero's Joker paralyzing Barbara Gordon in The Killing Joke, or Jeff Bennett's Joker abusing Harley like other Jokers have been known to do. Or trying to envision the Joker from those old Scooby-Doo cartoons I referenced earlier, cutting off his own face. My point is that it just doesn't work with this depiction. And this depiction just doesn't work in general. It fails in every way that you hope it would succeed. Which is why, without a shadow of a doubt, this is the worst of cartoon clowns. Prove me wrong in the comments. Now, I know that some people would put earlier versions of the character as the absolute bottom of the barrel, but I think that they kinda just barely surpassed that with the crutch of time. When you take into account what the character was and how he was depicted in comics at the time, taking note that they were trying to sell this character to the youngest demographic imaginable, you realize that these portrayals, while not perfect, are still very much in their element. For me, Brent has to be the worst because he is so far removed from his. I would probably look back on this part much more fondly had he been around during the earlier years. If he was portraying Golden Age Joker, there really isn't much you can complain about. Because once again, it's not my Joker, but it is a Joker. The way that he went about this part in the series that he was a part of is what makes this stand out that much more. And for me, that's what makes this an all-time low for the character. It just seems very out of date and very out of touch for the landscape that it's in. With all due respect to Brent Spiner, who is a fantastic actor that I very so much enjoy in everything else I've ever seen him in, if you're looking for evidence of this man's talent, for mere moments he made the movie Master of Disguise somewhat watchable. That's nothing to sneeze at. But this just wasn't it. It wasn't it for him or for us. He's had much better roles, and we've had much better Jokers. You would think, given this specific performance, that the studio would say, "Hey Brent, thanks for coming. Your stay was short, but you still overstayed your welcome." And then shut the door on that iteration of the Joker forever. However, you would be very wrong. Because instead, following that introduction, Warner Brothers let that man inside, bringing Brent back to voice the character in their reincarnation of Radio, Batman the Audio Adventures.
Hold on. This is news to me. I gotta process this. Are you telling me bowler hats are back in, Eddie? Milt says it's a matchstick. Is that right? I don't get it. Oh, I get it. I don't like it. You're talented. You don't deserve the names people call you.
What do people call me?
In this one, everybody falls in love in the end.
While I'm still not a huge fan, I will say that the tone of the Audio Adventures does better suit the clown that's in ill-fitting suits. It's a huge improvement, and it really goes to show you how an actor not only has to be the right person for the part, but also how an actor could potentially be the right person for the part, but that part is just in the wrong place. Once again, I don't think Brent Spiner is ever gonna break through the top 10 Jokers list. Hell, I wouldn't even put him on the top 20. But I will say that he is much better here than he was over there, just based on the story and setting that surrounds the character. I admire Brent as an actor, but I don't admire him as a criminal clown. In my opinion, he is the worst Joker we've ever gotten. But that's also not a position that I would say that he's in alone.
No, there is another.
But maybe that's a story for a different day. And if that would be a story that you yourself would like to hear, let me know in the comment section below by leaving a comment saying,
"Just joking."
I am vengeance. I am the night, and that was V Infuso. Just remember, if you're not tuning in, then you're missing out.
So, if you like the words that came out of his mouth hole, and you too would like to become a V-generate, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching, nerds!
And if you're not joining the fun, you're in for one bad day. And you know what they say about having one bad day?
Catch him next time. Same bat time. Same bat channel.